Namaste, Jai Swaminarayan, and good evening. Welcome to this special online program celebrating 25 years of BAPS Sri Swaminarayan Mandir, London, better known as Neasden Temple. This evening is one we had hoped to have celebrated together at the temple. It was to be an opportunity to thank you all in person, because so many of you from across the United Kingdom and around the world have been keen supporters and well-wishers of Neasden Temple over the years. Since its inauguration in 1995 by His Holiness Brahmok Swami Maharaj, the mandir has become an integral part of the country's religious landscape and been woven into the very fabric of British society. For 25 years, it has continued to serve as a place of faith, open to one and all, and as not just an internationally acclaimed building of beauty, but a place of learning, a sanctuary of peace, harmony, and a hub of community service. This year especially saw the temple play a vital service role with its network of other temples and centres around the country and even Europe. Neasden Temple has been able to provide more than 50,000 meals to the needy and vulnerable and supported over 12,800 families in 61 towns and cities during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Over the next hour and a half, we hope to be able to share with you the efforts of our volunteers supporting communities around the country and the wider impact of the temple here in the UK. We will also be joined by a special guest, Mr. Harish Salve, QC, former Solicitor General of India. He will be sharing his thoughts about Neasden Temple and reflecting on his relationship with BAPS. But first, we shall commence our programme in the auspicious Hindu tradition with prayers for world peace.
सर्वेत्र सुखिनः सन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात्
अन्तरिक्षं शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिः आपः शान्तिः औषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिः विश्वे देवाः शान्तिः ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वं शान्तिः शान्तिः एव शान्तिः साम शान्तिः एति शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः.
Following our traditional start, we would like to welcome our first speaker of the evening, Pujya Brahmviharidas Swami. Brahmviharidas Swami was raised and educated in the United Kingdom before being ordained as a Swami by His Holiness Brahmok Swami Maharaj in 1981. He has served in BAPS in a variety of areas and is one of the key leaders of BAPS's outreach and community relations activities. This has included coordinating our COVID-19 relief efforts in India. He has also been a part of the creative team that conceptualized and constructed the Swaminarayan Akshardham temple complexes in Gandhinagar and New Delhi in India. He has a close connection with us at Neasden Temple because he was here in 1995, helping with its inauguration festivities. He is currently responsible for the development of the first traditional Hindu mandir being built in the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi. This evening, he will be speaking to us about the need and impact of mandirs. Pujya Brahmviharidas Swami.
The BAPS Hindu Temple in London popularly known as the Neasden Temple, is in a way timeless. It is a time capsule of art, traditions, culture, and values. In a way, it celebrates the past, addresses the present, and blesses the future. His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj inspired that a traditional temple crafted in the traditional and ancient architecture should be made in London. We all believe that temples in any form, whether they are large or small, grand or simple, wherever they are, they generate a climate of spirituality. But when you create a temple which is done as per the ancient art and architecture, and its forms and filigree, and all its designs, because they represent the cosmic harmony of nature. And I believe that as the first traditional stone temple in the Western Hemisphere, the London Temple is unique because it not just generates a climate of harmony within ourselves, but it creates a harmony with nature and the cosmos. As symbolically it represents the starry heavens, the cosmic skies, it represents the forest, the nature, the water, the flora and fauna of the entire earth. So when you celebrate art and architecture in a traditional way, it not just revives ancient craft, but it also preserves it for posterity. As it is often said, that first men shape buildings, then buildings shape men. The temple in its own traditional and ancient way has the power to transform the lives of people because of the sheer serenity and peace that it generates. But not only does it celebrate the past, it also addresses the present. However beautiful, however aesthetic it may be, but if it fails to address the needs of the present, then it does not connect to the present generation. The need of the present society is regeneration of values. How often do we hear that ethics have to be reintroduced into education? Healthcare without the basic values is detrimental. Business, when it loses the depth of honesty and truth, it does not generate a climate of trust and trade. So we often hear that ethics have to be introduced, values have to be reintroduced in the families, in the youth, in our children, in everything that we do. Then what generates these values? The temple, in a way, because it is based on universal values, helps regenerate these values into the life of society. Values of love, trust, service, values of faith, values of tolerance and harmony. And in that way, the temple in Neasden has been supremely successful. How often do we hear of stories of lost children who have come, hoping not to give the exams, but they go back reinvigorated with full faith. There have been couples who have come to the temple thinking that they would be divorcing, but once again, they've developed faith in their own values. We have heard genuine stories of people completely steeped into depression and contemplating suicide, going back, transformed people back into the life in full form. So these values help address the present needs of society. And how? The most important fact is the value of love and selflessness. The temple itself was built by the voluntary love and service of thousands of volunteers, and it's done out of devotion and a beautiful labor of love. This in itself has generated and created a climate where the temple has become an epicenter of selfless service to society. Whatever is needed, whether it's time of drought or disaster or a natural catastrophe, whether it's helping out with terminal diseases, whether it's a cause for children or whether it's a cause for creating greater harmony. The temple has always been at the forefront, just as in the COVID pandemic. So we find out that the temple addresses the present by regenerating the values that the world needs. But the most important factor that bugs each one of us is how should we face the future. So the temple is like a time capsule that celebrates the past, addresses the present, but also blesses the future. It is often said that a temple built out of stone would last thousands of years. Great thinkers have said that in 1,000 years, people will realize the contribution of His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj, who has created a temple, a center of values and traditions and culture that enhances society, but that will last for hundreds of years. Let me explain that on this world, technically, nothing is permanent, but the values that keep humanity alive are immortal. These values of spirituality, which are universal, they bless the future for a better and a harmonious world. No wonder the London Temple, which is seen as a beautiful center, which is also marveled at by millions of visitors and devotees alike, which is also emulated in their thoughts by students who come for discovery and rediscovery of life. The values which make people immortal are espoused by this temple, whether it's through art, through culture, or universal values. In a way, London Temple is not just the first traditional stone temple in the Western Hemisphere. It is the first of many that followed. Inspirations have gone as far as Toronto, where a beautiful temple was created after the London Temple. Whether it's the temple in Chicago or the traditional temple in Houston, Los Angeles, or whether it's the current temple that is taking shape in Abu Dhabi. The inspiration has come by the early seeds that His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj has sown. And the current temple in Abu Dhabi is seen as a spiritual oasis for global harmony. Imagine a Muslim king donating free land for a Hindu temple, where the lead designer of the master plan is a Christian Catholic, where the lead consultant is a Chinese communist, and the project manager is a Sikh engineer, and the contractors are Parsis, Shapurji Palanji. In so many ways, it has brought different people from different cultures and different beliefs together to create a temple out of love and service. No wonder it has been hailed as a spiritual oasis for global harmony. What can keep humanity together is the collective effort of each one of us. As Guru Hari Mahan Swami often says, that a temple should become the epicenter of unity. And unity amongst humanity is the virtue of God. So let us pray that the London BAPS Hindu Temple is not just celebrating the past by preserving ancient art and architecture and beauty, but also by addressing the current times with a set of values that we need, and also blessing the future with a harmonious world that would be important for all of us to flourish. It is, as the Sanskrit verse goes, Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. The BAPS Hindu Temple, popularly known as the Neasden Temple, is not just timeless, it's a time capsule of Satyam, truth, Shivam, purity and spirituality, and Sundaram, beauty that not just creates a beautiful building and a beautiful environment, but beautiful people who are pure in heart and devout in spirit, who served society selflessly every time and in every way.
Thank you to Pujya Brahmiharidas Swami for that insightful talk, helping us understand the need and lofty vision behind Hindu temples. I would now like to introduce our next speaker for this evening, Professor Sejal Siglani. She is a professor of Pediatric Respiratory Medicine at the Faculty of Medicine, National Heart and Lung Institute at Imperial College London. She is also the co-lead volunteer of BAPS's healthcare services in the UK and leads our welfare department for safeguarding children. Professor Siglani will be introducing Neasden Temple's activities in healthcare awareness and our partnerships with charities around the UK. Professor Siglani.
Looking after the health and welfare of our community is central to the ethos of BAPS. We have a wide array of health and social care workers among our volunteers who are committed to utilising their skills in their own time for the benefit of the community. In addition, over the last 25 years, we have been truly honoured by the support, guidance and expertise our charitable partners have offered to enable us to raise awareness about critical health, well-being and social issues important to our community. A community which is often unaware of the support services available, but obtains reassurance and comfort from the guidance that we can provide in a trusted and culturally sensitive environment among familiar faces. Our activities would not be possible without the tremendous dedication of our volunteers, but equally without the ongoing support and understanding of our charitable partners who have helped all ages from the young to the elderly and have remained committed to our cause of serving the community. We would not have achieved such great rewards and evidence of success. I would therefore like to take this opportunity on behalf of BAPS Healthcare Team to humbly thank you all for your support and collaboration. I hope you agree we have achieved a tremendous amount, but there is still much to be done, and I look forward to our continuing working together to serve our community over the next 25 years and beyond.
London Mandir has harnessed the efforts and collective spirit of thousands of volunteers around the UK to serve individuals, families and communities, taken together and working alongside national and local charity partners. These initiatives have empowered individuals to contribute their time, money and resources to help create a better community, a better nation, and a better world. We worked with Age UK and Carers UK to raise awareness about supporting the elderly and their carers. With Alzheimer's Society, we help people recognize early signs of dementia and how to seek help for it. With Diabetes UK, we helped raise awareness about the signs of diabetes and how to manage it. For breast cancer care, we were amongst the first to generate a video raising awareness about the importance of screening. Working with the NSPCC, we help provide essential guidance to parents on how to keep our children safe online. With the British Heart Foundation, we raised awareness among South Asians about living with heart disease. Through Barnardo's, we supported children with severe learning difficulties. We have partnered with the Anthony Nolan Trust and Delete Blood Cancer to recruit bone marrow donors. Since 2010, we have had a nationwide campaign to raise awareness about the urgent need for both living organ donation and donation after death, making it clear that Hinduism supports both of these acts of selfless service. The endorsement from our gurus and senior sadhus has been key in strongly conveying this message to the community. In 2017, our Guru, Param Pujya Mahant Swami Maharaj, launched a campaign promoting living organ donation with production of an educational YouTube video and leaflet. Numerous seminars and conferences followed across the country to promote this message within BAPS and other Hindu mandirs. Let us hear from one organ donor whose selfless act transformed her brother's life.
At a very young age of 18, my brother Baris was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, and only a year later on, at the age of 19, we were told that both his kidneys had failed and that he would need a lifetime of dialysis. This was devastating news for us, considering that he was so young and he had his whole life ahead of him. And we saw his struggle through the intensive dialysis and being in hospital for most of the days. And so when the doctor said that a kidney transplant would save him from this life, I decided that that was what I wanted to do, and I spoke to my husband and his family and my family, and we all decided to get Ashirwad from my Guru, Param Pujya Pramukh Swami Maharaj, and Swami was very happy with the decision and gave us Ashirwad, and all the checks happened and the operation was a success. And I can see how this has transformed my brother's life. He went on to get a first-class degree, he did a master's, and he now has a PhD. And we're so proud of what he's achieved. And we're so happy to share our story as part of the BAPS campaign for organ donation, and being able to tell people about our experience and the process, and to dispel any myths and preconceptions that people have. I mean, I went on to have 2 children after the kidney donation. So we just wanted to let everyone know that it's a really important thing that you can do for somebody else. It's the highest type of dhan that you can do, and you can transform somebody's life completely, like Baris's.
More recently, the Mandir has teamed up with other Hindu and Jain organizations to educate and promote the law change in England on organ donation after death. Those eligible are deemed to have consented to donate their organs after death unless they opt out. The Mandir took a leading role in producing the educational material, and the campaign was launched at an event in the Houses of Parliament. Such collaborative work with other charities and faith groups has led to greater gains for the community as a whole. One of the most important services the Mandir has offered in recent years is the cardiovascular screening in partnership with the Royal Free Hospital. This has been a 10-year initiative run by the healthcare volunteers of the Mandir, along with members of the Royal Free Hospital. People of South Asian ethnicity are at significantly higher risk of death from heart disease. Early detection is essential to prevent deaths. The Mandir is an ideal place for the local community to be tested for signs of heart disease in an environment that is culturally sensitive. We will now hear from Monaben about her experiences of the health screening initiative.
In 2017, I attended a health screening organised by BAPS at my local temple. I was surprised to find out that my blood pressure and cholesterol levels were higher than they should be, even though I was well in myself. So I had a lot of questions for the doctor, who reassured me and gave me guidance on how to be more active. I also spoke to the nutritionist, who had some really helpful and simple tips on how I could change the way I cooked so that meals were healthier for the whole family. And I made a number of simple changes, and I'm happy to say that my blood pressure and cholesterol levels have come down, and so has my weight, and I feel so much more energetic. And knowing that through these simple steps we've reduced our chances of having problems in the future, I'm very grateful to BAPS for arranging this health screening at my local temple.
Let us hear more about this from the CEO of the Royal Free Hospital, Kate Slemek.
So I think the BAPS heart screening service has made a very big difference to lives of people in this local community. South Asian people are twice as likely to have heart disease than Caucasians, so they're a high-risk group. And by bringing services out locally that are easily accessible, you're much more able to access people and enable them to have screening that they might not otherwise have had. They may feel uncertain about coming into hospital. In our collaboration with BAPS, I think we've screened about 1,600 people in the 10-year history so far. And of those, about 60% of them were obese or overweight. And at least 50% had one cardiovascular risk factor. So we may not have actually come across those people in doing it in the hospital. So this allows us to then support individuals, educate them around lifestyle changes and needs, and enable them to change the way that they eat and exercise, and give them a much better chance of living a healthy, happy life and longer life with their families.
Our next speaker this evening is Mrs. Rena Amin. She's an Associate Director for Medicines Optimisation in Greenwich for the NHS South East London Clinical Commissioning Group, and is also a Managing Partner of Heartland Way Surgery as a Clinic Associate, one of the few pharmacist partners in the UK. Rena also serves as a clinical mentor for one of the largest primary care networks in England. Rena was made a Fellow of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society for her outstanding contribution to the pharmacy profession, a recipient of RPS's Pharmaceutical Care Award, and in 2012 she received the Asian Women of Achievement Award in the social and humanitarian sector. For BAPS in the UK, Rena serves as the lead volunteer of our outreach and community relations activities. This evening, she'll be talking about our relations with our neighbours, sharing some special messages from British leaders, and also introducing our response to supporting the community during the COVID-19 crisis. Mrs. Rena Amin.
It gives me great pleasure to share with you some of our key community and outreach contributions, particularly in response to the COVID-19 pandemic relief work. As the nation faced its greatest national health challenge, particularly for our frontline workers, BAPS indeed stepped up and supported our NHS and our public services such as the police, the ambulance, the fire, and many other organizations. Pramukh Swami Maharaj has always advocated the joy in helping others, and we therefore focused our efforts particularly on the elderly and the vulnerable of our society by reaching out to them and delivering over 50,000 meals, and over 210 NHS organizations have been supported with our donations and supplies. It is indeed during this work that this BAPS community and within its volunteers, over 1,000 of them have helped us in reaching out to those who needed our support. In fact, BAPS as a global community have provided an international response during the pandemic in countries such as India, USA, the Africa, New Zealand, Australia, and some of the work that they did related to supplying PPE, water tanks, accommodation support, in over and above the meals and telephone support. I believe that as a community, the Indians are disproportionately affected by COVID-19, particularly in terms of morbidity and mortality. BAPS became very mindful of the impact of shielding and isolation on our elderly and the vulnerable members of our community and launched our Care and Connect holistic program to reach out to this in order to overcome the sheer hopelessness of isolation and loneliness. We made over 21,000 calls to these families or members of our community who needed our support. Apart from our community and pandemic relief work, we've also reached out to our neighbors and residents as we believe it's an important and vital function for BAPS. By better understanding their local needs, we can only strive for community harmony. We have done this by achieving many other programs with our interfaith forums and community annual appreciation days. For this work, we have received numerous testimonials and messages of appreciation from many faith organizations, particularly the Archbishops of Canterbury, Westminster, the Chief Rabbi, the Jain community, ISKCON, and many others. We're equally humbled to have our work endorsed by Her Majesty the Queen, His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, and the Right Honourable Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and many other members of the community. Many of our community outreach activities have been successful because of the collective efforts of many of you as our friends, supporters, and partners across a myriad of various organizations. As we celebrate our 25th Jubilee anniversary, I not only take this time to thank you, but also to pray that we continue collectively to have this community spirit and carry on this collaboration for many more years to come. Thank you.
Every year, hundreds of thousands of visitors come to London Mandir and leave inspired, touched by the beauty, faith and spirit of volunteerism that the Mandir represents. It has been a source of attraction and inspiration for countless people. Thousands of school children and visitor groups have been able to experience Hinduism at first hand. The Mandir has become a beacon for Hinduism in the United Kingdom. Over the past 25 years, world leaders, prime ministers and presidents, like countless others, have been able to visit and experience the Mandir's message of harmony, faith and service. Serving the country, supporting our families and neighbours and keeping us safe. They have all experienced how the Mandir has brought the community closer together. For each one of them, a visit to the Mandir has been an enriching experience. Whether it is in realizing the power of prayer, in feeling the strength of non-violence, in learning about the universal nature of Hindus' timeless wisdom, or in simply admiring its beauty. Each element has had a spiritual significance that has, in many ways, also served society. The Mandir has provided a safe space for constructive interfaith dialogue between people of different beliefs, cultures and opinions. It has facilitated open and honest conversations in local communities with religious leaders. This has provided a springboard for collaborative action to strengthen society and, standing together, to build harmonious communities through interfaith understanding, mutual respect and cohesion.
Your Holiness Mahant Swami Maharaj, Swamijis, ladies and gentlemen, Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan. It really is a great joy to me to be able to send a message of congratulations to you all on the 25th anniversary of the opening of the Neasden Mandir. On each of my 4 visits, including 2 occasions with my wife in order to celebrate the festivals of Holi and Diwali, I have always been afforded the most marvellous welcome. I've also been struck by the very special beauty and craftsmanship of the building, the remarkable spirit of volunteerism and community service, and the sheer sense of peace and tranquility that one experiences there. I first met His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj, the founder of the Neasden Mandir, in 1997 at St James's Palace. I remember being deeply touched by his sincerity, his warmth and humility, and by the way in which His Holiness exemplified genuine kindness and compassion. It was these qualities that energized and guided all your marvellous volunteers from across the United Kingdom to complete the construction of this mandir in only 3 years. It is wonderful that over this past quarter of a century, the mandir has become a thriving centre for the British Hindu community and a place where families are able to learn about their religious values as well as their cultural heritage. I've also been particularly impressed by the way in which the mandir has reached beyond the Hindu community and welcomed millions of visitors from all faiths and none in order to share perspectives and learn from one another. This year, the dreadful COVID-19 pandemic has caused significant disruption, suffering, and anxiety all over the world. In this country, it has given me immense pride to learn of the way in which the Hindu community, including such a large number of BAPS volunteers, have been so active in their support for those in need, providing thousands of hot meals and assistance for the elderly and the most vulnerable. Of course, I realize that very many Hindus have been doing such vital work in our National Health Service and in other key roles, and I particularly wanted to express my gratitude and admiration for all you do. In all these marvellous efforts, and in the work of the Neasden Mandir over these past 25 years, it seems to me that you embody His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj's message, "In the joy of others lies our own." I need hardly say that at some point in the future, I do so hope I will be able to return to the Mandir and see you all again. Until then, I can only send you my heartfelt best wishes for this very special anniversary.
Happy birthday. It's going to be a silver jubilee to be proud of and to celebrate across the whole of the UK. This is a national landmark. I remember I was Mayor of London in 2012 when this was one of the things that we put when visitors came to London. We identified the Neasden Mandir as one of the great sights of London. And it's going to be 25 years old. It's the living embodiment of values, of the contribution by the Hindu community to our culture here in the UK today, which is enormous. And it's very exciting to be here because it's not just a spiritual place. It's obviously very spiritual, but it brings thousands of people together in a way that is fun, that is educational, that promotes social cohesion, and promotes values that are very important for our country. I've always found a sense of peace in the shrines and in where I have an opportunity to pay my respects to the divinity, and the beauty of the architecture and the sculpture is also very striking. This is a temple that every day brings kids from around the UK, from every every community to come and see what's going on. And I think it gives people a sense of the vital importance of faith, and also what Hinduism and what the Hindu community is contributing to our country.
"25 years ago, I joined the historic celebrations at BAPS Sri Swaminarayan Mandir. For the Hindu community, this was a moment like no other, because it brought together Hindus from across the generations and also from across the country, and it has since then been the centre point of our community and cultural relations for decades. The Mandir is, of course, a central part of so many lives for so many people, but it's also well known for the extensive way in which it brings people together of all faiths and also of no faiths, but all backgrounds, and also how we celebrate the very best of our culture and auspicious occasions and festivals while respecting the values of Hinduism. Many leaders and dignitaries have paid their own respect to our community when visiting the Mandir. To this day, the Mandir remains an iconic place of worship for us all. And I've been blessed as I've visited the Mandir on many occasions, and also through my own connection, through my family, which makes this Mandir a deeply special place.
Absolutely so happy to be joining you and the members of the community of the temple today on this very, very auspicious occasion when you complete 25 years since the establishment of this world-famous temple. I see it as a monument to the success of your community, to the success of the devotees that have come together and collaborated and contributed to build it, but also a symbol of your commitment to spirituality, the kind of spirituality that is embodied in the ancient Indian philosophy of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. And that was seen at the time of the COVID lockdown, when all of the members of the temple community came out, helped the citizens and the communities around them, and I'm really proud of that.
So I'm really proud to have the Mandir in my constituency in Brent and as part of Brent Central. I mean, a couple of things. I mean, it's one of the modern 7 wonders of the world. I've been to the Mandir before I was an MP, during being an MP, and after I was an MP, and then back again. So it's another home to me, and it's very friendly place to come, especially if you just want to sit and meditate for a while. So when the pandemic hit, I knew there'd be a lot of people wanting to come to the Mandir to pray, give worship, hope for this to pass. But it couldn't happen. And it wasn't a surprise to me that the Mandir then decided to take what it does best to the community. And I had people calling me, asking me who needs to be fed, do the doctors and nurses need help, do they need transportation, what is it that they need? Because the Mandir is part of the community. And so the Mandir community went out and spread, if you like, that love to the rest of the community. And I knew that if somebody was hungry, that the Mandir would be there to feed them. So thousands and thousands of volunteers just started working. And it happens all the time. So there was a time, for instance, when we had a high prevalence of diabetes in Brent, and the Mandir ensured that they put on a special function that lasted for a week, educating people about diabetes, what they needed to do, how they needed to check what they eat, how they needed to check their blood pressure. All of that happened. It was the same with the Anthony Noland Trust about giving blood. You know, the Mandir put on a great event. We had about 50,000 people, I think, you know, over the week that just came and listened and helped. So it's more than just a building. It is a community hub, but it's also an information hub as well. So it served the community really well, and not just one community. Yes, it's a Hindu Mandir, but it serves all communities.
I'd like to wish you a very happy 25th anniversary of the Neasden Mandir in London. This Mandir is one of my favourite places to visit in London and has become an important part of our city's skyline. It only benefits the local community in Brent, but it's something that everyone in our city can be proud of. I want to thank the elders of the community who, led by the vision of the late His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj, ensured that this beautiful mandir was built not only to serve the Hindu community locally, but to bring people together from different faiths and backgrounds. I also want to pay tribute to all the volunteers in the Hindu community who continue to selflessly serve the wider community and contribute immensely to our great city. This has been more evident than ever during the COVID-19 crisis. Your community is a vital part of what makes London the greatest city in the world, a place where we don't just tolerate our differences, but we respect, embrace, and celebrate them. Thank you and happy 25th anniversary.
Hello, Neasden Temple. Last year I was lucky enough to visit your Mandir, and the warm welcome that I received was just incredible. I was so glad to join you, and I learned so much. And like many other visitors to the Mandir, I was awestruck by its beauty. You don't need me to tell you that. It is truly a marvel and a precious, precious part of the cultural heritage of the UK. But of course, we're not here just to talk about the beauty of Neasden Temple, because I also wanted to talk about and to celebrate you, the community that worships at this magnificent building. Now, we all know that these are difficult times, and I've been so moved by your efforts to keep connected to each other and also to the wider community. You've really reached out to help over 4,000 elderly and vulnerable people with meals and errands and things that they needed. I heard that you made over 20,000 phone calls of support to comfort London families. You've delivered over 50,000 tiffins to people in need. And I know it might seem a strange moment to celebrate, but actually it is even more important that we honour all that you have achieved, both in the past 25 years, but also today. The Neasden Temple community has stayed strong through this difficult period. You've helped each other, but you've also helped the wider community when it was really needed and when it was needed most. And that is certainly something to celebrate. So happy 25th anniversary Neasden Temple. I wish you all the best, and I'm really already looking forward to my next visit. Namaste.
This pandemic has demonstrated the work of the mandir and its values actually in looking after the people who do not have a centerpiece of our community, a beacon of that hope, making sure it doesn't matter who you are. As I said, the mandir is there for every single person, and regardless of whether you believe in Hinduism or not, the temple has been about looking after one another, and also one of the best things is that some of our council staff who have been in the front line going out, the mandir has absolutely made sure that those staff, those individuals who have sacrificed so much and given their commitment to looking after, have been looked after by the mandir as well.
It has been inspiring to hear and see the work of our volunteers in supporting the wider community. In the wake of this pandemic, Neasden Temple adapted swiftly and smartly to online worship. Its evening aarti is broadcast daily and routinely garners 6,000 to 9,000 viewers every evening. The weekly religious assemblies for all the various age groups have also been driven online, alongside parenting webinars and online education workshops. The 25th anniversary celebrations in August were joined by more than 30,000 people in 33 countries around the world. All these broadcasts are being facilitated by a group of in-house dedicated volunteers. Let us now hear from Roshni Soneji on how the temple has played a role in her life from a young age, through her years of education and early womanhood, and from working at a Big Four accounting firm to now, as she seeks to continue to instill these values in her young family.
My story with the mandir goes back to the year 2000. My family weren't religious at the time, but my grandmother, who's been a Swaminarayan devotee since birth, insisted that my mum bring my brother and I to the mandir to instill the Hindu values and cultures in our lives. It was a complete different world to me, and when you're 14 or 15, you're more concerned about making friends or keeping up with latest trends than you are about learning about culture. But as the years went on, I slowly started to find the joy in understanding about our values. And it's because the mandir did such a good job of targeting the weekly sabhas to specific age groups. And I found myself understanding the messages that are portrayed by our santos and our scriptures. I was also really lucky to become part of a community. When life is smooth sailing, you take things like the mandir for granted, and you assume that your faith is strong because nothing has ever shaken it. 10 years ago, I had the biggest test of my faith when we suddenly lost my dad. It was a complete shock to us all, and it's only natural that you question your faith and ask questions like, why my dad or why my family? And to find the answers to these questions, I turned to one of our key principles that we are taught in the Swaminarayan philosophy, which is that everything happens due to God's wish, and therefore everything happens for a reason, and a good reason. This understanding provided me then, and even now, with more spiritual strength than anything else. In addition, the support we received from the mandir community was incredible. They stepped in like family would and made sure that everything was taken care of. And it's because of everyone's sense of family and belonging to this mandir that made that possible. Today, as I juggle the demands of a professional career, of married life, and of being a mother, the mandir has taught me where my priorities lie and ensuring that I keep satsang at the forefront of everything that I do. The mandir's numerous children activities have made it particularly enjoyable for me to pass on these values to my son, as I want him to have the same strength and enthusiasm to be part of the community that we belong to.
We are delighted that our keynote speaker for the evening will be Mr. Harish Salve QC. former Solicitor General of India and a Supreme Court lawyer. During his illustrious career, he has represented his clients in a number of high-profile cases, both in India and more recently in the UK, where he is a member of Blackstone Chambers. Earlier this year, Mr. Salve was appointed as a Queen's Counsel for the Courts of England and Wales. Mr. Salve has been a close friend of BAPS over the years. We are honoured that he is joining us tonight to share his insights and experiences. Mr. Salve.
Thank you for this opportunity of sharing a few moments with all of you on this wonderful occasion. I have been for quite some time now, over a decade, not just a big admirer of the movement and of the BAPS organization, but I have almost come to consider myself as part of their family. And therefore, I feel honored at this opportunity of saying a few words. My journey began in Nagpur. You must have heard of Nagpur. It's the center of India. It's known for two things: its wonderful oranges and its searing hot summers. I was born in Nagpur. I was brought up in Nagpur. I did my schooling in Nagpur. My father used to be a chartered accountant practicing in Nagpur, and as was not uncommon in those days, a chartered accountant's son took to accountancy. So I did my chartered accountancy. I finished my articles, by which time I had realized that perhaps accountancy was not really what I was cut out for, and I was fascinated by law. That's the time when I moved to Delhi. I had the privilege of meeting late Mr. Palkhiwala once when I was in college, just around the time I was to move to Delhi. He was a dear friend of my father's. He put his arm around me and asked, "Harish, when are you joining the bar?" The moment he said that, the die was cast. I decided to become a lawyer. I did my law from Nagpur before I moved to Delhi. I set up my practice first as a chartered accountant, worked for a year or two with my father, and then I migrated and joined the bar in 1980. I was privileged to be in a wonderful chambers of one of India's finest silks, Mr. Soli Sorabji. And I would be failing in my duty if I did not acknowledge the huge debt of gratitude I have to him for the wonderful training we got working with Soli. It's always challenging to be a young lawyer, any young professional, especially if you're on your own, because of the conundrum that if you're young, nobody trusts you with their brief. And unless you get work, you don't get experience. And if you don't get experience, you're not an experienced lawyer. And if you're not an experienced lawyer, you cannot be trusted. This conundrum gets broken when you are with a good senior who patronizes you. You're seen working with a good senior lawyer, and that's how lawyers get on in life. And I was indeed very fortunate at a young age to develop a reasonably good practice. I was given the Indian silk called senior advocate in 1992 at a relatively young age. I was not even 36. And I remember with great fondness my younger days, with a tinge of nostalgia at times. As students, we hardly had access to knowledge and information as students of today have, with the powerful digital space in which all information is available on the click of a few keys of your keyboard. But then to compensate that, we had all the time in the world to try and search for information, go to libraries, meet people. Life was much easier in the early 70s when I was a student. But it's been fascinating to see the world evolve in the last 30 years as my journey in the profession continued. In 1999, the government appointed me as Solicitor General of India. I thought it was a wonderful opportunity. My father had always been, or almost always been, in the Congress Party from 1966. And yet in 1999, for the first major non-Congress government formed, I was made the Solicitor General of India. So I thought that was a break from the Indian tradition of fathers patronizing their sons and pushing them ahead. It was a wonderful experience working in Vajpayeeji's government. It was education at its finest. I had a reasonable amount of experience working with private clients in the private sector. But those 3 years gave me an invaluable insight into how governments work and the needs of governance, the pressures of governance. And that makes a complete lawyer. When I quit in 2002 and came back to private practice is when I had the occasion to first come across the BAPS organization. They came to me seeking my assistance in a case in the court. And I was remarkably surprised at my very first meeting. Some of the monks who came dressed in their traditional clothes, very Spartanly dressed. When they spoke flawless English. They were obviously very highly educated. They were remarkably articulate. They were so well prepared with their case. They knew every paper, they knew every fact, they knew every detail. Their behavior was marked by class, by humility. You could feel immediately that you were with people who have had a wonderful education in things that matter in life. They were wise, they were composed, and their equanimity was remarkable. It was a lesson to meet people like that. I met them once, I met them a second time, I met them a third time. I did one case for them, I did a second case for them. Some of the cases related to certain environment issues which had come up in relation to the Delhi project. Then I met them for some disputes where somebody had claimed land belonging to the organization and so on. And I was so impressed that when they told me that His Holiness Pramukh Swamiji was in town and I could meet him, it was such a blessing. And this happened in London. I was in London. I got a call saying he is in town in case I would like to meet him. Having met the monks, I could not for a moment resist the temptation of rushing there. I went and met him. When you were in his presence, it was an amazing experience, overall experience. A sense of tranquility prevailed. His eyes were perhaps the most softest eyes I have seen. with enormous depth, which comes only to a soul that is that evolved. He spoke in a very soft tone. The way he spoke, of what he spoke, I sat there for about half an hour in his presence, and I sat spellbound. And it was an experience. It's one of the finest experiences of my life. It is an experience I will never forget. I also remember when the terror attack took place in one of the temples in Gujarat. And there was great concern all over the country as to whether there would be a retaliation. Pramukh Swamiji came onto the TV and appealed to the people to maintain calm. And what he said was so beautiful. He said, this is a moment for prayer. It's not a moment for anger. I can never forget that beautiful speech he delivered on such a delicate occasion. I've had the privilege of being to the Neasden temple. The Neasden temple is a remarkable tribute to classical Indian architecture. It has been made with great taste. It presents some of the fine features of the architecture of the area. It is a period construction. It is a piece of Indian culture, which I'm delighted to say is such an important symbol of India and Indianness that those from India, the younger generation of Indian origin, can come there and relate to the motherland, to their homeland, to the homeland, to their ancestral land. It's, I would say, Hindu heritage at its finest. I have been in the temple. It presents to the world a beautiful face of Hinduism. Hinduism not in a narrow parochial religious sense, but Hinduism in all its grandeur, in its majesty, as the most inclusive faith, as the most educative faith, as an all-embracing belief which is based on wisdom of the centuries, and yet which brings love and affection and the message of human kindness, of human oneness to the world. I wish the organization and the temple and those who do such a wonderful job of managing it all the very best on this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Harish Salve for making time from his hectic schedule to speak to us. This evening, we are also pleased to welcome Pujya Yogvivek Das Swami, head sadhu of Neasden Temple. Pujya Yogvivek Das Swami originates from Leicester, where he qualified as a medical doctor and practiced as part of the NHS. He was ordained as a Swami by His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 1992. He has been serving as head Swami at Neasden Temple since 2005, from where he oversees BAPS activities across the UK and Europe. He has become a leading and respected Hindu figure across the continent. Currently, he is managing the BAPS voluntary efforts in the UK in the wake of the global pandemic, and can be seen every evening as part of the daily webcasts where he presents in Gujarati and English key health information and government guidance to help keep everyone informed, safe, and positive. If I may now hand it over to Pujya Yogvivek Das Swami.
Namaste, Jai Swami Narayan, Jai Shri Krishna, and Jai Siya Ram. in the tradition of our Sanatan Hindu Dharma, His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj created many temples all over the world. And we are very fortunate that here in London, he opened this temple in 1995. And we've been hearing about how this mandir and other mandirs contribute to creating a society, a value-based society. Because this mandir, while it is first and foremost a spiritual home, is here to serve the community and here to serve society. But that service is based on spiritual values. Spiritual values such as that taught to us by Pramukh Swami Maharaj. In the joy of others lies our own. In the happiness of others abides our own. As Krishna Bhagwan has said in the Gita, Ma phaleshu kadachana. We may do deeds, we may do good karma, but don't have any expectation of reward, of appreciation, or gratitude. You will earn the fruits, but don't have an expectation to earn the fruits. So this is what we call selfless service. And we saw this very aptly in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic, where we saw many communities, not this mandir, but many Hindu mandirs up and down the country. Not just mandirs, many other organizations, some faith-based and some non-faith-based, but all came together to work on one platform to help serve the communities that we live in, serving together for the greater good. And we saw the impact of this, that we were able to support countless individuals and countless organizations. And it was very heartwarming to see our young volunteers, because Pramukh Swami Maharaj, when he opened this mandir, he said, this mandir is for one and all. Whatever your background, whatever your religion, whatever your age, but this mandir will inspire us to do spirituality and service. So it was very heartwarming to see the young volunteers who came forward, especially at the time of the lockdown in March and April, to help provide, to help deliver meals, deliver provisions and medicines to those in need, the elderly and the vulnerable, all in a safe way. So that has been very encouraging, that our younger generation is also picking up these values to serve, to understand the community that we live in and cooperate with one another. We are all learning, or we have all been forced to adapt to COVID-19 in our society. Even here in the mandir, we would expect many people every single day, thousands of people every weekend to come for our assemblies. But unfortunately, that's not possible. People have been coming for private worship, but even that has now stopped. But online worship, online devotional activities continue every single day. And that has allowed us to reach out to many people, probably many more than we would have been able to if we had been operating normally. We are not sure what the next few months hold in store for us, but we will continue to offer our prayers that everything gets back to normal as soon as possible. We do know that next month we are celebrating our Diwali and our Hindu New Year, as we do every single year. Unfortunately, this year it will be on a much smaller scale because we will not be able to cater for the hundreds of volunteers that normally come in to set up the Ankut here in this hall, or also in the mandir upstairs. So it will be on a smaller scale. People will not be able to come for darshan, unfortunately, because there's so many expected. So we will continue our online and virtual services and hopefully provide a grand experience for everyone, just as people who participated in the Mahapuja for the London Mandir 25-year celebrations. We want to give that experience to all devotees and all our well-wishers who are interested in taking part in the Diwali and the Ankut New Year offering. Normally, we have the sponsor a Prasad Thari scheme, in which devotees will sponsor tharis to be offered to the deities. That will continue, but this year we will also be giving some of those proceeds to charity so that we can support people in need. So we are working in collaboration with the Felix Project, so distribution of meals or distribution of goods can happen and get to the needy or the most vulnerable and also the homeless. Finally, we pray that you all continue to remain safe and to remain well. And we are very grateful that we are safe and to have had the opportunity to serve the community in this way. And we thank all our volunteers. We thank all of you, our supporters as well, for your continued support, encouragement, and we have managed to reach out to so many people through the inspiration and the guidance of our gurus, Pramukh Sai Maharaj and Mahant Sai Maharaj. May we all continue to serve the community in this way for many, many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you to Puja Yogavivek Das Swami for those inspiring words. Our final speaker this evening is Dr. Mayank Shah. He is the Clinical and Managing Director of Lotus Healthcare. He graduated from the Royal London Hospital Medical College, now part of Queen Mary's University, and commenced his career in general practice in 1989. He is currently a senior partner and trainer in an NHS general practice. He has previously served as a trustee of Diabetes UK and the Diabetes Foundation, and as clinical director of NHS Waltham Forest Clinical Commissioning Group. Since 2012, Dr. Shah has served as a trustee of BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha in the UK and oversees its outreach and community relations activities. I now request Dr. Shah to address us.
My dear friends, thank you for joining us in this special and very unique celebration of the opening of the Neasden Temple 25 years ago. This celebration is not about simply the physical opening of the mandir, but also marks a number of other celebrations. We celebrate the vision and inspiration of His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj, and we celebrate the guidance and spiritual leadership provided by His Holiness Mahant Swami Maharaj, whose message of unity and harmony applies to all of us, irrespective of our beliefs and backgrounds. We also celebrate today the millions of school children and university students who have visited and experienced the Hindu culture and Indian architecture. It has been a place where a number of scholars have visited, be it scholars of Hinduism or interfaith studies, those interested in Indian architecture or culture, and those who visit simply to experience the beauty of the mandir and experience the tranquility and peace within the mandir. The mandir has been a home for many of our devotees who use this to celebrate special lifetime events such as births, such as weddings, exam success, to name a few. For many, it has also been an opportunity to experience the welfare services that we've been providing, partnering with charities locally and nationally. This year, our plans for charity partnership changed very quickly with the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are humbled that we've been able to serve and reach out to so many, both in London and throughout the country. We also celebrate the unsung heroes, our volunteers who give countless a number of hours and their talents to help the mandir reach its objectives. So thank you to all of them. This evening, I'd like to thank our keynote speaker, Mr. Harish Salve, QC, for sharing with us his very interesting journey through life and his relationship with BAPS Sanstha throughout the world. I'd also like to thank Puja Brahmavihari Swami for sharing with us the impact of the Neasden Mandir throughout the world, and Puja Yogavivek Swami for sharing with us the impact of the opening of the Neasden Mandir on personal values and Hinduism throughout the UK. I would like to thank all our volunteers who are involved in the production of this evening's event. As you will appreciate, there are lots of time and effort which goes behind producing such an event. And finally, a big thank you to all of you, our friends, our well-wishers and supporters who have been with us through this momentous journey. I pray to Pujya Mohan Swami Maharaj, and on behalf of the Board of Trustees, wish you good health, happiness, and look forward to inviting you to the mandir as soon as possible. Thank you, and Jai Swami Narayan.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Finally, before we conclude this evening's programme, we shall perform the Aarti ceremony. The Aarti is one of the most important and popular ceremonies of the Hindu faith. It is a form of prayer offered in greeting and thanksgiving to God, where we are reminded of His glorious presence and providence. We also thank you today for joining us in this special programme celebrating 25 inspiring years of Neasden Temple. Your support, goodwill and blessings mean so much to us, and we look forward to your continuing support in the many years to come. We do hope that we will be able to welcome you again to the temple soon. In the meantime, please stay safe and well. Namaste, Jai Swaminarayan, and good night.
Shri Swaminarayan Bhagavan Ki Jai. Jai Swaminarayan, Jai Akshar Purushottam, Akshar Purushottam Jai, Akshar Purushottam Jai, Darshan Sarvottam, Jai Swaminarayan, Mukta Ananta Supujita Sundar Sakaram, Jai Sundar Sakaram, Sarvopari Karunakar, Sarvopari Karunakar, Manav Tanudharam, Jai Swaminarayan, Purushottam Parabrahma Shri Hari Sahajanand, Jai Shri Hari Sahajanand, Akshar Brahma Anadi, Akshar Brahma Anadi, Gunatitanand, Jai Swaminarayan, Prakat Sada Sarvakarta Parama Muktidata, Jai Parama Muktidata, Dharma Ekantik Sthapak, Dharma Ekantik Sthapak, Bhakti Parivrata, Jai Swaminarayan, Das Bhav Divyata Sah Brahma Rupe Priti, O Brahma Rupe Priti, Surad Bhav Alaukik, Surad Bhav Alaukik, Sthapit Shubh Riti, Jai Swaminarayan, Dhanya Dhanya Mama Jeevan Tav Sharane Sufalam, O Tav Sharane Sufalam, Yagna Purusha Pravartit, Yagna Purusha Pravartit, Siddhantam Sukhadam, Jai Swaminarayan, Jai Swaminarayan, Jai Akshar Purushottam, Akshar Purushottam Jai, Akshar Purushottam Jai, Darshan Sarvottam, Jai Swaminarayan, Jai Akshar जय स्वामी नारायण। श्री स्वामीनारायण भगवान की जय। अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराज की जय। गुणातीतानंद स्वामी महाराज की जय। राधा कृष्ण देव की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र भगवान की जय। उमापति महादेव की जय। भगत जी महाराज की जय। शास्त्री महाराज की जय। योगी महाराज की जय। प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज की जय। महंत स्वामी महाराज की जय। प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज शताब्दी महोत्सव की जय। लंदन मंदिर रजत जयंती महोत्सव की जय।